What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NFL DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. Joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG, known to many of y'all as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, what's happening?
What up, man?
Have you ever looked in to see if you could change it to 7 Ds? I was just wondering by now. Just, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the number 8 too. I do. Okay, I got no problems with the number 8, but just wondering. Like, it just occurred to me because I've always been tempted to do your intro and somehow work in at 7 somehow, and then I wonder.
I mean, when 7 became a thing, I certainly thought about man, why did I go with 8? But when I made it, I just put in Paulie D and that name's taken, and I just put my hand on the D, and it went, and there was no thought behind it. Let me get 8 of these.
No, of course, I know that, but being was where it took you, where things ended up. I just wondered. Right. I always wondered. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've always thought about changing it to CK_07 or 007. That'd be sick. But then people would think I was like a James Bond dude, and nothing against him. I mean, I think the whole suit thing is sick, and this whole gig is sick. I've just never really been into it. So, but I don't know. I guess it was felt off brand. But I thought about it, so I figured I'd ask if you have. Yeah, who'd have known?
Of course,
that number would be so significant for some reason. Shout out to the nation. Shout out to Artful Dodger in the chat. Says I'm late, but I'm here. Hey, better late than never. That's what I've been told. Well, that's what I've always told people. I'll say that. That's what I've always told people. We got a pretty good game to talk about, Paulie. We have a pretty good a week in general as far as football goes. Starting with week 11, I think this Sunday slate is awesome. We'll talk about that tomorrow night on the NFL Wise stream for week 11 with myself, you, Patio Joe, late night as usual. West Coast style. So that'll be fun. But even just starting off week 11 with this particular game we have tonight on Thursday football. Thursday football has gotten a reputation for, being shitty games. I think everybody's kind of, especially this far in the season, but I think we were rewarded with a pretty sick fucking good looking game, at least if it's half as good as the last time these guys met. Thoughts on tonight's game?
I mean, yeah, it's, I don't think you could pair two more exciting teams in the NFC at this point. And, we got Russ and then the protege, the new Russ. And, two of the top 5 receivers in the whole NFL in this game. It's going to be awesome. Even if there was no DFS, I'd be pretty amped just to even just watch this game. Honestly, DFS-wise, I've been struggling to make builds that I truly, really like. I'm, forced to take guys that I don't love to fit the guys that I do love. And I'm, struggling with, do I put a kicker and the captain to get everything I like into a lineup? Or do I suck it up and punt with, one of these tight ends that's, a crapshoot of which one's going to do well today? It's even though it's a phenomenal game, I'm struggling with, getting to builds that I really like at this point.
Yeah, I was having the same issues. I agree. As much as you want to just I think we'll be good with just one of these quarterbacks and the captain. And I have builds with especially Murray. We'll talk about that in a second. The lineups look a lot better when you're able to save money at the captain. That's the only way you're able to fit it. And even so, you're still not getting everyone you want, but you're getting at least a few more, or at least a couple more than you would if you just, locked in Kyler Murray, who's $13K on DraftKings and the captain and went. But as D Millie says, it ain't pretty in the lineup streets. I have to agree with him on that. It ain't pretty. Building teams. The game is awesome, but the DraftKings did a good job of the pricing. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to make you think. A little more thinking than I like to do on a Thursday. I'm preparing for a main slate Sunday, but it's better than these games that we've had that have been fucking awful on Thursday night. So we'll roll with it. With that said, we're going to dive right in. If you haven't hit the like button already, nation, please do. The likes go a long way, really help us out and allow us to continue to do what we do, which is dirties on the YouTube and Twitch. places. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We do DFS content for free on the channel all the time. And if you're looking to take a game to the next level, hit us up at wisestake.com. Our projections are all available over there for download, cheat sheets. Paulie, myself, and Joe all write articles for the Sunday main slate. Go check it out. Without further ado, we have a 56.5 total. Seattle Seahawks currently 3-point favorites at home. I've seen a lot of places opened it at Seattle minus 4.5. I've also seen the line get as low as Seattle minus 2.5. So, it's a little confusing as to which way the line's moving based off money. It seems like maybe it's mostly based off injuries. We know Seattle is missing Carson, but they do get Hyde back. Alex Collins is on the practice squad. So just a couple things to note as we go in. Paulie, I guess start me off with the Arizona side, and then we'll talk about Seattle and put it all together.
So, obviously Kyler Murray, you want to get into as many lineups as possible. Just the most dangerous DFS player right now in the game. He's a running back and a quarterback, and the team is playing super fast, scoring a ton of points, and he's just consistently dropped 30 plus like almost every week this year. Against a defense. After that, it gets tricky. We got two running backs to consider, Drake and Edmonds. You figure Drake will probably get more of the workload on the ground, but I think it'll be pretty close to like a 50-50 touch split when it's all said and done. Kenyon Drake's coming off a short week after returning from an injury, and Chase Edmonds was playing pretty well outside of a dud against Miami, I guess, where he got a ton of volume, but didn't do much with it. So that's like there's no clear cut decision there. It's, you can make a case for either one. Obviously, at receiver, you'd love to have Hopkins, but that's pricey. Kirk, I think, will be certainly very attractive. I think Larry Fitz is in play, and on showdowns you got to get different. So even like a guy like Andy Isabella, who could hit a home run and win you a slate at like really low ownership, is in play. Kirk would be my favorite receiver, price wise. Like I really think that not that it's a balanced build, but getting as many players that are capable of scoring 20s into your lineup is like the way to go today. But obviously Hopkins is a baller, and you're going to want him too. Very minimal interest in like any of the tight ends in Arizona. I'll probably have like 15% max cap of Darrell Daniels and not even interested in Arnold. Really like kickers on both sides. I was reading an article from another site today, and they were like talking about like the optimizer and how you got to like make rules. And they were like, the second rule they had was no more than one kicker per team. And I think that's like the worst advice you could give on this game for the slate. I'm not even going to put a cap on my kickers. I'll allow 100% for either one. The Cardinals D, I think, isn't. I'm sorry. The Cardinals D, I think, isn't. I'm not really interested in Seattle, but Cardinals, I think you can kind of mix in.
Yeah, I think, like you said, with Kyler Murray to start, and his projection is just through the roof. The matchup's phenomenal. We know Seattle's been like one of the nut spots to attack with anything, but quarterbacks are included in that. And Kyler Murray's been such a big part of his offense. A lot of times you get worried about the running back running in touchdowns in the red zone and taking away from the quarterback. But in Kyler Murray's case, it's been the opposite. You're worried about Kyler Murray running it in, and the running back getting screwed out of points. So I'm with you on Kyler. I do have a team where I have him in the captain, and I'm just trying to make it work, and I'm pretty much pairing him with all receiving options that I can afford on his team. But for the most part, I think just rostering him is enough, at least to some degree. So Kyler is one of my favorite captains, but I think just having him on your team is necessary, even at the expensive price. Russ is like the next step down. I'd like to get as many with him. I'm sorry, I'm fucking going through the projections, talking about positions. My bad. DeAndre Hopkins, I like, but not as much. I'm willing to make that sacrifice like you and a lot of teams. I do prefer Kirk. I also like Edmonds, and I know the running back split's annoying. They were like 50-50 or whatever last week, but Edmonds has always gotten more targets his way is in the pass game, and because I like Kyler Murray, I'm looking for a running back that'll best correlate with the pass game. So maybe today's not the case. It's not like Kenyon Drake doesn't get any targets, but they do seem to be more comfortable putting Edmonds in on third down and letting him be that guy. And then, I found myself in a position where I was left with Dan Arnold or Isabella. And Arnold is playing more, right? And he gets like 3 to 4 targets more often than Isabella. But when you look at the floor, like, so maybe Isabella gets me a 0. What's Arnold's ceiling? Like a 7? Isabella can actually get me a 13, 14 by catching, like when he does get thrown the ball. It is something big. So from a tournament mindset on a 1-game slate, I feel like if there's going to be a guy I'm punting with as far as receiving options to pair with Murray, I think the punt for me is also Isabella. And I realize I'm taking, like, he's got the higher probability of a 0 simply because he doesn't play as much. But at least when he does, it's for something down the field, which is really what we're looking for. So I'm not opposed to playing Arnold, but I think that in that range, I'm just going with Isabella. And I agree with you on the defense. I think that I don't like either, but I'm more likely to play the Cardinals defense. They actually have some decent players. Seattle just, you got Jamal Williams, who's not having that great of a year. Did you see, like, this is a clip of him in the red zone? Jamal Adams, like, just avoiding contact, like in the red zone, like on the goal line.
Really?
He had an opportunity to put a lick in, and he just kind of eased back and didn't do it. And he got and then they showed Pete Carroll or whoever it was just drilling him on the sideline, just drilling him. It was like the strangest. I don't know. Something's up with him, bro. Like I don't know what's up with Adams, but something seems up with that dude. Like he just had an opportunity and he just let him go. Like they were on the goal line. He got around the back and had an opportunity to make a hit and just backed away from the contact. I don't know. Talk to me about Seattle's offense.
So, obviously everything starts and ends with Russ. He's my favorite player on the slate. Metcalf does not have great history, but I like him the most of the receivers. I think, it's just like natural that, seeing what Lockett did in this matchup last time, thinking about the actual matchups, you're going to see Pat, on Metcalf, who he's done well against. Meanwhile, Lockett gets a great matchup. The only negative is that Lockett was dealing with a slight injury. He did get ruled into this game. So I think Lockett will be more popular because he's cheaper, because of the, recency bias. And I think Metcalf is matchup proof. I don't think Patrick Peterson's a shutdown corner. So I think the ownership is going to be much lower on Metcalf. And, I think, there's no one that can really shut him down. And I really like pairing him up with Russ. Cool with Lockett. I will be mixing in some David Moore and some Freddie Swain, whose, target seems to be on the rise and is one of those, cheap options to punt that, help you get the guys you want. I don't know what to do with these tight ends. I think I'm just going to cap them all around 20% and see what the opto gives me. If I had to choose, I think I'd lean Will Dissly. But none of them really, have much appeal. Really like the kicker and have no interest in the Seahawks defense. Oh, and I did hear that Seattle coach, who's one of the least trustworthy coaches, taking what he says is, at a very grain of salt. But I did hear that he does want to try to establish the run, focus on the run a little bit. So I do kind of have interest in Carlos Hyde. Probably the only running back I think will get much work. I don't think DJ Dallas or Bo Scarborough get a ton. So I think Hyde at his price is a nice piece of the Seahawks offense to get as well.
Yeah, real quick, going back to Arizona, just to clarify, and I'm shout out to Ryan D in the chat reminding us that Daniels, the other tight end for Arizona, is out. So I would give a little bit of a boost to Arnold, just based off of snaps. So I'll give him a little bit of boost. I'll give him a boost in the projections and all that stuff. But on to Seattle. Russ Wilson, I fit him wherever I can. I'm prioritizing Murray over him, but I'd like to fit him in. I'm with you on Metcalf over Lockett simply for ownership. I think like you, Lockett is cheaper, so that's going to help people. And Lockett's the one that exploited a weakness in Arizona. You would think that Arizona would come with a different game plan to try to avoid, Lockett going for, 200 some yards again. And like you said, because of Patrick Peterson and how poorly Metcalf did in the first game, I think people will avoid him. And I also happen to agree he's matchup proof. Patrick Peterson has always been known as like a really physical guy. Like that's right up Metcalf's. You're gonna try to out physical. You're gonna be, Metcalf. Like I don't know. I don't think it happened. I don't think it's happening, bro. He's a big motherfucker. So I'm with you on preferring Metcalf. And Hyde is actually probably my favorite non-quarterback play on the slate. And simply because they were hurting with DJ Dallas. I know he had a good game, but we're talking about a young guy that is not as experienced, is not that big, and you're asking him to pass block and do all these things. And Alex Collins was, I think, fitting that role better. They were very quick to switch to Collins off the practice squad and just kind of use him on most downs. So I think, and with him not being here, I think Hyde's going to play a ton. And we do know that Carson was good for anywhere from 4 to 6 on average targets a game. I think Hyde is going to get the same type of work. And like you said, I think it's in Seattle's best interest. I know Pete Carroll was saying they want to try to establish the run. It's probably in their best interest. I think that when looking at all the running backs in play, you got a clear split with Edmonds and Drake. And I think they're worth playing. But if you like either of those guys, you got to like Hyde, who's cheaper than both of them. And is really like, I'm looking at him like really the only running back. And I really don't think, and like DJ Dallas is so cheap at 600, then if you want to try it, be my guest. But I just think that I think Hyde's going to get a whole lot of work, and we'll see. He's coming off a hamstring injury, but he has missed some time. I don't think they would play him if he wasn't ready. I mean, I heard Chris Carson was practicing again, but they didn't want to play him because he didn't want to push it. So I would think that he's good to go. I think he's going to get a lot of work. The tight end situation, definitely a tricky one. I lean towards Olsen, but he doesn't do as much for you with the value that you get taking a shot on Disley or Hollister. Who I do like, actually? I don't mind. I like kind of. It's David Moore. Like, you're really only looking at 3 to 4 targets, but you're getting those 3 or 4 targets, and when they're coming big, right? Like, he's got he's that dude that just when he goes for 17, it's only on 4 targets because he caught the bomb. So he's another one at 4,800 that I don't mind. I just worry that those are the kind of guys that are going to end up being real popular on this slate because people are trying so hard to get in Wilson and Kyler together. But is what it is. Ain't what it motherfucking ain't. And I'm not interested in the defense either. No, thank you. Let me ask you this: any interest? Going back to the Cardinals side, and Larry Fitzgerald at 4-4?
Yes, yeah. I do like him. He's quietly just been pretty consistent, for what his price, what his role is. And, I think the old man's got a couple, fantasy viable performances left as we close out the year. And he's the kind of sneaky guy that, can get 6 catches for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns at really low ownership in the captain spot and allow you to still get Russ, Murray, plus good receivers, and a punt. So I have a lot of interesting fits.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at 4,400, the targets have been climbing, like you said. He did well. He had a lot of targets the last time these guys played. And when you look at Seattle's defense, like you can't even imagine like what they got going on there. They've been missing. Dunbar's been dealing with injuries all season. He hasn't been nearly as good as he used to be when he was at Washington. And Shaq Harrison, who's by far their best corner, can't get on the field. And so, if they're targeting Fitz out of the slot a ton, and then now you got a tight end down, it just makes a lot of sense. So I'm with you. I do like Fitz. I forgot to mention him when I was talking about the Cardinals side, but definitely one of my favorite value plays as well. Let's talk captains, bro. Who are your top 3 captains?
Top 3, Russ. Russ, Larry Fitzgerald, and Chase Edmonds.
I can dig it. Mine is like a similar approach, just like literally the other end, like Kyler Murray number 1, Christian Kirk as like the off kilter receiver guy, and then probably my favorite, and I say my favorite because I'm saving money at the captain, so my lineups just look better when he's in there. Is Carlos Hyde at the 52? Just hope he gets that red zone work. Hope he gets some pass game work, whatever it takes. But I would rock with those three, dirty style. Let's do some picks on the game, man. 56.5 total over under.
Under.
I want to say under too. Like I think under is the play if you're betting. Like perception is these guys are gonna go off, and it makes sense. But a short week, right? Everything lines up. But like Arizona's games, like they're just so high fucking scoring. And Seattle's obviously but Arizona's games, they play so fast, and Seattle's defense is so bad that they're gonna force Seattle to play fast. It's just hard for me to envision them not going for 60 each. But I with that said, I do think like if you're just betting on a process, I think the under is probably where there's more value. You have a 56.5 total game for a Thursday night football game in Seattle, where both teams are on short rest and haven't had as much time to prepare. So I think that's where the value is. But I just can't stick with it, so I'm going over. Seattle -3, Cardinals +3. What you tanking?
Cardinals.
It's hard to pass up Cardinals with the points, man. I hear you. It's really hard to pass up Cardinals with the points. I'm going with Seattle, and realistically, what I'd like to do is try to wait for live and hope I can get like a situation where I get Seattle plus points. But I'm just betting that Russell Wilson, who's been not playing as well, who's coming off probably one of his worst games of the season last week. I think 2 weeks in a row now where he's throwing picks like a month, like crazy. I'm looking for a bounce back game. He had 2 straight road games, so I'm looking for a bounce back game at home. I'm riding with the chef himself, Russ the cook. You know what I mean? Jelly beans. That's pretty much gonna do it, Nation. I don't see any questions or anything. I appreciate those of you hanging out with us on Thursday night. We got a really good game, so have some fun, enjoy some football. Tomorrow night we'll be here to provide you with some Week 11 knowledge. So make sure you tune in for that. The listener leagues for Week 11's main slate are in the description in this video as well to help you guys get in there. It's free to get in it. We have one on FanDuel, one on DraftKings. Get in there. Me, Paulie, and Joe are in there. We can, compare teams, and we talk about it all the time on the first look next week. We usually review, shout out the winners, and the winners get $25 each. So, FanDuel and DraftKings. So make sure you join that. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
I got a question for you. What do you think the game flow is here? Is one team jump out to a big lead and then the other comes from behind, back and forth the whole way? You think Seattle wins by more than 2.5? How does that happen?
I think it happens via shootout. I don't see Seattle really being able to stop Arizona much. Like maybe some drive, sure. But I think Seattle, they do try to run the ball, and I think they find a way to be successful by getting Hyde involved, whether it be through the pass or through the air. I think they find a way to be successful. That would be my how I think the game is going. So I'm kind of expecting more of a shootout, which is why I'm more into more in these guys that are really like prayers. They only get 3 or 4 chances a game, is because I'm thinking that we see some of those plays connect. And I talked about Isabella and some of those odd ones. But that's what I think. What about you, though?
I think Arizona gets out to a lead. Seattle comes from behind, and
just falls short.
No, I think they'll win by 1 point, but Arizona will cover.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I have a hard time seeing Seattle running away with this game.
Oh yeah, no, of course, of course. I think the way they cover the 3. Well, obviously, if it's a push and they win by 3, I get it. But I do see, if they do win by more than 3, I think it's either tie game and then they got the touchdown instead of the field goal at the end, or Arizona was up by 3 and Seattle got the touchdown instead of the field goal and ended up winning by 4. I agree with you on that, and that's the reason that as far as when I'm actually betting, what I want to do is wait for live and hope that Arizona does score first and get out ahead. And then be able to take, Russ at the very minimum without any points. Yeah. I just don't want the points because I'm with you, bro. I could see Seattle winning by 1 or 2. Happens all the time with these kind of situations. So I'm waiting for live, and I'm gonna, that's my. I don't have the flash drafts like Paulie does. Like Paulie's got that flash draft madness going on, and down in Florida, we don't have that up here in Jersey. But they did just legalize marijuana, and we have sports betting, so I guess I can't complain too hard. But yeah, I am with you on that. As far as what I'm actually putting my money on, I will be betting on the game if Arizona can. If I can get the right number, I just don't want to lay points. If I can I want Seattle, but I want Seattle with points. It's basically, I want the cake and eat it too. So if I'm not in that situation, I won't be betting on it.
Another thing, DraftKings has kicked the kickers' prices up a tad to where it's not just like automatic, put 2 kickers and then 4 of the best players you can get in there. But in high scoring shootouts, like the double kicker with his, 3 out of 4 of the best players and then a punt is probably how it works now, is probably your best bet if that's the game script you see. Like if you see a back and forth, 37 to 34 kind of game, utilize those cheap kickers who are going to score extra points, field goals, all that good stuff to allow you to get a lot of the good shit.
No doubt. No doubt about it. All day. I like that. All day. We do have a couple questions now. We've got Takari Davis, Hopkins, or Metcalf. Who's your preference?
For me, it's Metcalf, and I'm playing all large field contests. I'm trying to hit a big 5-figure or more kind of win, and I think Metcalf will be significantly lower owned in captain or as a flex, so I prefer Metcalf.
Yeah, but Metcalf seems like the Thielen play from Monday. Everybody's like, including us, right? Like Thielen never does well against Chicago. Kirk Cousins always struggles against Chicago. And what happened? Thielen ended up, albeit only with touchdowns. That's all he needed, though. It's all that mattered.
Yep.
He ended up putting up 21 points. So I'm with you on that. Terp Dig, Swain or Disley?
Swain.
All right. And I think that's it for the questions. So I appreciate you guys, Nation. We appreciate you rocking with us, hanging out with us. We hope to see all you guys and more tomorrow night when we talk about Week 11 main slate. It's a juicy one. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
Flash Draft City.
Flash Draft Mafia, son, all day. That reminds me, there was somebody on Twitter once that was like, why does everything have to be a nation? Could we stop with the nation? I don't know who this motherfucker was, man. I don't even know who this motherfucker was. But I quoted this motherfucker and I said, fuck no. Why take nation? For life. Let him know. And he don't know who I am. So he's just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But
why take nation?
All day. Why take nation, bro? Fuck you. That's how we said. But anyway, appreciate you. The like button. Paulie D, myself, the entire Wise Take Nation. As always, good luck.
Yeah.